please.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Ma'am, good afternoon. Could you state and spell your name for the record for us?
My name is Jorge Torres.
Okay. Ma'am, you can go ahead.
I just want to tell Sarah Boone that I don't hate her for what she did. And I always remember that evening when that lady came into my door and she knocked at the door. And she asked for my name. I said, I tell her my name. And then she said, can I come in? I said, okay, yes. And she told me to sit down. I never think that was going to be my son. And then she said my son was dead. Since that day, I can't sleep. It's hard for me to remember that moment. My son is not here no more. She don't only kill my son, she killed a father, a brother, an uncle. It's been hard. I'm a family because all the brothers, they will always work together. But now it's like something real. Love is missing. Sometimes when I look out the window, I'm waiting for him to come and say, Mom, I love you. She was always there. She come and called me. I missed us, Mommy. The last time that I talked to him was at 12 o'clock in January, New Year. He came to my bed and said, Mom. He woke me up and I said, Mom, I love you. Happy New Year. Since that day, I don't see him no more. He was my son. I love him. And I miss him a lot. My family miss him a lot too. But I don't hurt her. But you know what? I was blessed. She ain't gonna be blessed like me because I have my son. I raised him. I have his children, my granddaughter, my grandson, and she don't gonna be able to have that. And I did. I raised him. He wasn't perfect, but he was a good son. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. State anything further from this witness?
No, Your Honor.
Defense?
No, sir.
Thank you. You may call your next victim impact statement.
Jorge Torres.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Ma'am, could you state and spell your name for the record for us, please?
Victoria Torres. My name is Victoria Torres. George is my brother. Unfortunately, my family has experienced two horrifying tragedies. I just want to make it clear that George deserves justice. As far as my other brother and Sarah deserve to rot in jail. Sarah has caused a lifetime of pain, a lifetime of horrible images, a lifetime of hearing my brother George plead for his life. This is just this moment for all of you. For me and my family, it's forever. Such a simple thing as using a suitcase is so triggering. I try not to close it all the way. I leave at least like 2 or 3 inches for the zipper. And it might sound crazy, but it just helps me. She really has flipped my family's life upside down. And I just hope that we can truly get justice for my brother. And I just want to tell the team thank you so much for everything they did. Thank you.
Thank you. State anything further?
No, Your Honor.
Defense?
No.
Thank you.
Your Honor, could we see if Ms. Anna Torres has been able to make it online?
Do not see an Anna Torres in the lobby, sir. I have lots of guests, HHSA, Mr. Beck, Lana Albert, Jason Gunn.
Your Honor, is there a cap to the link as to the number of individuals?
Not to my knowledge.
Could we just have just a moment?
Yes. Yes, sir, Mr. Cacciatore.
Your Honor, after speaking with Mr. Owens, due to the fact that the victim's daughter is having difficulties with...
Is that her, Anna Victoria Torres?
Yes, sir.
Is that it? Is that who it is? All right, ma'am, good afternoon. Can you hear us?
Good afternoon. I can hear you.
Okay, could you please state and spell your name for the record?
My name is Anna Victoria Torres, ANAVICTORIA TORRES.
All right, thank you, ma'am. I understand that you'd like to provide a statement to the court at this time. You may proceed.
Okay. Okay. So I'll be speaking for myself and my two siblings. The murder of our father has impacted us on so many levels and in different ways. I myself, for the first year, would wake up screaming every morning or night, wishing I was having a nightmare, only to wake up to remember all over again that my father is gone and I'll never be able to hear him say he loves me ever again. To know my siblings have been affected in such a way that they are now different. They have had a piece of their heart ripped away from them, all while her son gets to hear his mother's voice and see her alive is pathetic. Because of you, Sarah, my sister is heartbroken. Because of you, Sarah, my brother is left wondering when he will ever see his father again. The loss of my father has left me with chronic depression and anxiety. Seeing any moments of fatherly love or kindness being shown between others in real life or even on TV leaves me in complete shambles. Seeking therapy was a must in order to navigate through my workday without a random breakdown. Thoughts of my father's demise still enter my mind ever so often. I'm left either angry, sad, or sick to my stomach to think of how his final moments were. Jorge Torres, my incredible father. Not only was he my father, but my best friend. My personal comic provided me with wisdom and knowledge, creative and loving dad, an older brother, an uncle, a cousin, a friend, a son, and above all, our father. He was human and deserved to be treated as such. My father, Jorge Torres, was one of a kind, an absolute gem. Unfortunately, his light was dimmed on earth by evilness, but with us, we will forever make his name live on. Especially Sarah, I pray that you see his face when you see him at night. That is it.
Thank you. Anything further, State?
No, Your Honor.
Anything further of this witness?
No, sir.
All right, thank you, ma'am. State,
Thank you.
anything further?
No other impact statements, Your Honor.
Thank you. Any other witnesses or evidence at this point in time, State?
No, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Owens, you may proceed, sir.
Ms. Diane Smith. Judge, what do you want?
I have no issue with her being at the podium. If you want to move about the well to conduct your examination, that's fine, Counselor. Ma'am, come on up. Come on up to this podium right here, ma'am. If you could, raise your right hand. Madam Clerk's going to go ahead and swear you in.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do.
Ma'am, could you state and spell your name for the record for us, please?
Diane Smith, D-I-A-N-E-S-M-I-T-H.
Okay, thank you very much. Counselor, you may inquire.
And Ms. Smith, tell the court a little bit about you.
I was a chaplain at the 33rd Street Jail for 30 years.
And have you been a chaplain at the jail here in Orange County?
Yes, Orange County Jail
Is it the same
for
jail
30
you're
years.
referring to?
Uh-huh.
Okay. And during that period of time, did you have occasion to meet with Sarah Boone?
I did.
And was it over the course of how long?
I've known her 4 years.
And if you could, tell the court what you'd like to say.
Okay. Well, I first met Sarah. She came in. We have a Christian dorm, and Sarah enrolled in our Christian program. And she was in my classes for a year. And she was very sincere in her efforts to change her life and to be a better person. And I found her very helpful. She was kind and good to people. She loved to serve. And she helped the new girls that would come in, the younger girls. She would mother them and be very kind and very helpful. And then after she graduated from the program, I was her counselor for the other 3 years. And I always found her very sincere and, trying to do better. I spoke with many inmates that knew her and was associated with her. And they spoke very highly of her and said that, she was helpful and kind and tried to help other people. And I just found her to be, very sincere and trying to be a very good person and change and help people.
Was the Bible involved at all?
Oh, yes, it was all spiritual. Yes, it was spiritual growth plus character, growth in character, trying to just be a better person in general. She liked to serve other people, she would help the girls wash their clothes and show them around and teach. But spiritually, she grew very, very great and spiritually.
Thank you.
Hang on, ma'am, just 1 second.
Ma'am?
Hang on just 1 second, Ms. Smith. State, any questions?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate you.
I'd like to call Christina Pena. This one you.
Yeah, it's fine, Counselor. Thank you. Ma'am, come on up if you can. Raise your right hand. Madam Clerk's going to go ahead and swear you in.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
Ma'am, if you could state and spell your name for the record for us.
Christina Pena, Christina Pena.
All right. You may inquire, sir.
Ms. Pena, how old are you?
31,
And where do you live?
Orlando.
Now, it's my understanding, Ms. Pena, that you were in the county jail with Sarah Boone.
Yes.
How long were y'all in the same cell together?
Yes, I was in there for 4 years, but we were together for 3.
Okay. And I understand ultimately the charges against you were dismissed?
Yeah.
And so you were released on what day?
April 4th this year.
2024?
2023.
2023. So you've been out for a pretty while.
I've been out for like 6 or so months now. Yeah, since April
Okay.
of this year, actually. Sorry.
April of 2024. And you said y'all were bunkmates there together for about 3 years?
Yeah.
I would assume that y'all got to know each other pretty well.
We did.
Okay. And if you could, if you'd like to speak on her behalf to the judge.
Yes. Sarah's one of my best friends, my only.
Take your time.
She's helped me with a lot. Spiritually and like growing and she helps everybody. She's always, I don't know, she helped me a lot, and she would come to me, she'd talk to me all the time and pick me up when I was down, or if I didn't know something, she's good. I don't know, she was a good person to me. Mistakes happen. She always helped people. She was always helping everybody in the dorm. Even like her artwork, she did art. If anybody needed any help or needed anything, they'd come to her and she'd help them. And even if they, did wrong to her, she would still go back and help them and praise with them and pray over them and everything. It's just.
And was she a little bit older than you?
Yeah.
How much older was she?
40 in her 40s.
Did you think of her as maybe an aunt or a big sister?
Big sister, yeah. She was like a big sister. Like a sister I never had. Because I have brothers, so I never, we clicked right away. I don't know. We'd be walking out in the backyard, and she just would always try and talk to me, but I'm a quiet person, and I don't trust a lot of people. So for me to open up and trust somebody, it's a lot. So.
And obviously y'all were there under difficult circumstances, and she assisted you in getting through that.
Yes, and she helped me a lot with my my case, and I would help her with with hers too. We're both. Justice is not what it is. I don't know how.
Bless you.
We both helped each other out. I don't know. It's just,
Ms. Vignon, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Any questions, State?
No, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, ma'am. I appreciate you.
Ms. Hill? Judge,
Yes, sir.
after Ms. Hill, I want to take Ms. Albert, please.
Yes, sir.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Ma'am, good afternoon. Could you state and spell your name for the record for us?
My name is Mariela Hill, Mariela, last name Hill, Hill.
Thank you. You may proceed, sir.
Ms. Hill, briefly tell us a little bit about yourself.
I met Sarah in jail. I spent 3 months in jail and went through a lot of unfortunate circumstances myself.
All right, now this was in the Orange County Jail here in Orlando?
Orange County Jail.
And
correct.
when would that have been? Do you recall the dates?
Yes, it was April, from April to June of this year.
Of this year,
2024.
2024.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. And did you develop a relationship with Sarah Boone over the course of that 3 months?
Yes, yes. We met when I was moved to the B dorm, and I needed help with a form that I needed to complete, and one of the COs pointed to Sarah to help me out. And since that moment, we became really good friends, and she was so helpful, so kind, so respectful, and loving, not just to me, but to everyone. And I have nothing but good things to say about her, her character, her loving heart, and how deep her faith is, her faith in God, and believing in justice for everyone. So that's what I believe.
State, any questions?
No, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, Ms. Hill. I appreciate it. Ms. Albert, good afternoon, ma'am. Can you hear me? This is Judge Kranick, and if you can, I would ask you to turn on your camera and unmute yourself at this time, please.
Sir, how do I unmute turn on my camera? I know how to unmute, but I'm not sure how to turn the camera on.
Turn the volume down.
So, ma'am,
Is that better?
when you join the link, there should have been an option for like a pull down on the left-hand side of the screen for you to open out or turn on a camera. I don't know what device you're appearing on, if it's a cell phone or a laptop.
It is an iPhone. Should I try to re-enter the room?
Yeah, try to do that. There should be an option for you to pick a camera. You'll either select the default camera, and hopefully we'll be able to see you at that time.
Okay, let me, just give me 1 second.
Sure.
Did that work? Can you see me?
I cannot.
Shoot. Yeah, it's saying default camera. It's saying front camera. I chose it. It didn't show my face or anything like that.
My technological skills are limited. State?
I have no objection to the witness making their statement here telephonically.
Okay, appreciate it. All right, Miss Albert, good afternoon. If you could just state and spell your name for the record for us, please.
Certainly. Lana, Lana, Albert, Albert.
Okay. All right, Mr. Owens is going to ask you some questions. And if you could just answer them, ma'am, I would greatly appreciate it. Sir, you can proceed.
Miss Albert, do you have the ability to turn your volume down?
Yes, I just did. I can't hear you very well when I do that, though.
You can't hear me?
I can hear you, but very, very quietly.
How about now?
Yes, I can hear you. Am I okay?
Yeah, you sound a lot better. You were too loud earlier.
Okay.
Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you.
All right, Miss Albert, tell the court a little bit about yourself briefly.
Well, I live in Minnesota. I currently have end-stage renal disease. Before I became disabled, I was a business owner in the Twin Cities here.
All right, and how old are you?
I am 50 years old.
All right, and you're considered disabled?
Yes, I am.
All right. And have you had an occasion since this event to establish a relationship with Sarah Boone?
Yes, I have. We have been friends for the past a little over 11 months.
And how do y'all communicate?
We've communicated a lot of phone calls, lots of tablet back and forth, and a lot of letters as well. I'd say many hours of time spent with each other.
All right. And do you want to speak on her behalf here today?
I would, please.
All right. Would you please tell the court what you would like for the court to know?
Thank you very much. And thank you very much, Your Honor, for the privilege of speaking on behalf of my friend Sarah Boone. I also want to extend my heartfelt condolences to everyone here affected by this terrible tragedy, which has brought us all here and listening in. Many articles and videos and opinions of Sarah have gone out in the airways and on the webs. Opinions that have been formed and commented on so much that it's hard not to give into the temptation to treat people like a comic book or a fictional character. In the case of my friend Sarah, the words narcissist, Karen, villain, many other things, they roll off the tongue with little regard to the humanity that is dismissed so flippantly. And under a lot of circumstances, I was one of those people, as I have a love of true crime. And becoming friends with Sarah has shown me that there's a lot more depth to the people I see on the screen. I'd like to share with the world and with the court about the Sarah Boone that I know. Sarah Boone is a kind, honest, and good person. The Sarah Boone I know is one who loves animals, especially the kind who are damaged and defenseless. How many of us would take in and pour love for a hearing impaired and a sight impaired pair of dogs? She has a natural instinct to help reach out and give of herself, her time and energy and love, especially to those who are hurting or damaged. You all have seen her fight for her own life and truth here. I tell you this, she fights even harder for those she loves, giving time, attention, and companionship without a single thought for her own gain or what somebody can do for her. And one huge example is in the matter of our friendship. As I said before, I have end-stage renal disease caused by a genetic illness called polycystic kidney disease. As my life has progressed, things I have taken for granted have been taken away from me. I could not appear in court in person because I can no longer walk, as my dialysis treatments have affected the circulation of my legs and has confined me to a wheelchair. To say that my life has radically changed is an understatement. Through it all, I have many friends and family I love and cherish. Sarah has distinguished herself differently in this way. In the course of getting to know her, I started sharing the progressing state of my health. It was like lightning had struck her. The moment Sarah had learned the depth of my struggles health-wise, she straight up offered strenuously to donate a kidney to me. I got to tell you this. I hope she's not mad for me showing this, but she had no hesitation, no concern over personal risk or personal gain. I want to convey to this, out and around the world, that is merely offering is a good and heroic act. I've had many friends. I've not had one outside of my brother who has offered me a kidney. That is huge. I don't have anything of equal value to give to her. And that's not the actions of a narcissist. She did it as a reflex action, as a good person. After the verdict came in October, we spoke that night. And I hope Sarah doesn't get mad at me again for disclosing this, but out of all the shock and seriousness of what had happened in the court, the thing that made her emotionally break was that she realized she could no longer be a donor to me. I mean, I was sitting there like, hey, it's going to be okay. But she was so broken up, she couldn't help me. That's a friend. She is not, nor does she come up anywhere remotely close to being a narcissist. Now, one more thing before I go. Social media has worked to rip the blindfold off of Lady Justice, to take the sword out of her right hand and start assassinating Sarah's character. However, the scales are the balance. As it says in Psalm 85, mercy and truth are met together. Righteousness and peace have kissed each other. Justice isn't justice without mercy. Our pursuit of righteousness isn't complete and right without peace. Thank you, Your Honor, for the honor of speaking for my friend Sarah Boone. I hope that your justice is mixed with mercy here today. Thank you.
State, any questions?
No, Your Honor.
Any follow-up, Mr. Owens?
No, Judge.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Albert. I appreciate you.
I'd like to call Dr. Harper.
You want her on the stand or?
I'm okay with her on the stand.
On the stand?
No, she can be right now. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. I don't see Kevin.
Judge, you want her on the podium?
No, she can be at the podium.
Misunderstood.
That's fine. Doctor, good afternoon. If you could please raise your right hand. Madam Clerk's going to go ahead and swear you in.
Do solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do.
If you could, Doctor, state and spell your name for the record for us, please.
Dr. Julie Harper, Julieharper.
All right, thank you. Counsel, you may inquire.
And Dr. Harper, we all know we were here a few weeks back for the trial, and your testimony said the judge knows quite a bit about your testimony. But if you could, I know that you prepared a report, and we have submitted that to the court, which the court has read, and the state has a copy. And I don't know if you want to refer to that or just speak on your own about Sarah Boone and what you did to assess her, and then any opinions that you want to express.
All right. I think that during trial testimony, I reviewed all of the documents, excuse me, and all of the records that were available. They're documented in my report as well. In addition to the forensic clinical interviews that I conducted, I also have had the opportunity to talk to her brother, Philip Paulson, in the interim since the trial, and I included his information in my report as to her family background.
If you could, give the court a synopsis of what your findings are, and what you uncovered maybe from the brother, whatever you think the court needs to hear this relevant material to his decision in this case.
So referring to the summary section of my report, I'll keep it a brief, but I'll outline the highlights that I feel like haven't been conveyed before, which is an understanding of Ms. Boone's early family life, in that she is the middle child of her parents' union, and that her parents did not have a happy marriage. They didn't provide an opportunity to have a good role model as to how to have a partnership together. Ms. Boone was born in close proximity to her youngest brother, 11 months apart, and in my clinical experience and training, I would say that that disrupted her attachment with her mother, some being close in proximity with her younger brother, whose temperament just seemed to suit a relationship with her mother better than her own. So ultimately, Ms. Boone bonded with her father, though he wasn't described by either child as an affectionate person. He was somebody that was there for her at sporting events and more of a primary parent for her in that way. His untimely death by heart attack during her high school years was marked by her brother as a turning point for her in how she was acting at home, her demeanor, her relationship with her mother took a turn for the worse as she was not coping well. She was using substances based on what her brother was saying. And it is my opinion that that early lack of foundational relations with her mom and not feeling very secure, the death of her father, destabilized her. That's a period of your life when you're leaving high school, when you should have formed a very solid foundation to go out in the world, and I don't think that that's what she had at that moment. She bonded easily with Mr. Boone, and you can see that there are elements of that early difficulty with her relationships because she took on a parentified role, in my opinion, during that relationship. And therefore, there's a power imbalance in that she was making decisions and not, again, having an equal relationship. I think that that led her to a sense of being a need to be right, a need to feel like she is the one that's making good decisions, to have some ego support by being in the right all the time with Mr. Boone. And I think that that led to some behaviors that she carried over into her relationship with Mr. Torres, in that she's parentified around him and acting more like a parent-child relationship, being a facilitator of housing and applications for jobs and things like that. So again, there's a power imbalance that I think was very seriously misaligned, as her brother and the property manager of their apartment had verified. They saw her being abused, physically abused in serious ways, or the effects of the abuse in bruising or calls to them. It is my opinion that she called for help, but when people got tired of her not leaving Mr. Torres, they stopped responding to those calls. And basically, Ms. Boone handled things on her own. And as other people with healthier boundaries probably would have left, she, being acting out the pattern of intimate partner violence, did not leave. She stayed long past when it would have been smart for others, or others would have said to leave, sorry. The undergirding of that not leaving the relationship is a long-term anxiety problem that became post-traumatic stress disorder. There is an earlier instance of exposure to traumatic stress in that she was the person in the hospital after her father died who found him having students perform CPR on his dead body. So that was an early exposure to high traumatic stress, witnessing that incident, and based on her brother's description, that was something that changed her. When a person is exposed to numerous compounding stressors, their adrenaline system is changed. It alters your body. And things that might be an otherwise neutral situation, you tend to have a cascading adrenaline response to that. And I think that that ultimately, for her, as she succumbed to other instances of serious physical abuse from her partner, became post-traumatic stress disorder. I do think that that is a condition that is still existent even while she's in jail. It's something that she needs treatment for because those triggers are unmitigated, meaning that she hasn't really had the kind of therapy to address them and reduce her adrenaline and anxiety responses when she thinks of past instances of traumatic events that have happened to her. You can also respond to post-traumatic stress disorder clinically by using antidepressant therapy, and that would be something that could assist her ultimately in reducing symptoms if she had counseling and antidepressant therapy.
Now, Dr. Harper, I know that you had testified in trial that, in your opinion, she suffered as a addict spouse, the syndrome that is legally recognized in Florida, in the courts of Florida.
That's correct.
And I understand that is tied to this intimate partner violence, which is maybe the same thing, but there's a complex mental health issue that ties into that. Can you speak on the complexity of that whole cycle that one's such as Sarah Boone and Jorge Torres were involved in?
Certainly. So intimate partner violence is not a diagnosis. It's a pattern of events that occur between two partners in which the power dynamic is altered by the physical abuse or behaviors that are controlling in nature to the point that someone's safety is threatened. It's common for victims of that to have a complex mental health condition, often including depression, anxiety, and substance abuse problems. And what might be substance abuse to cope with the problem, like numbing oneself, will sometimes result in its own diagnosis. The pattern of intimate partner violence, I think we covered in the trial, but just in summary about that, there are phases in which at first the bonding of the two partners might be something positive. They've got something in common or have pleasurable time together. And then the secondary phase of that is when there is change in dynamic and some kind of traumatic event occurs, some instance of physical violence. And then there's a third phase in which it's like a honeymoon phase where they're trying to right the relationship. So in phase one, when they're having something pleasurable, the tone shifts. Phase two, there is some kind of incident. And phase three, there's a honeymoon phase. As that pertains to anxiety, I think that a person who suffers from intimate partner violence never stops experiencing that hypervigilance, waiting for the next instance of violence to occur. So even though they may look happy, they might be experiencing something positive, they've not really relaxed because their memory that that could or will occur again is still in their mind. So they haven't fully stopped experiencing intimate partner violence. It's just what phase of the process they're in.
Now, and Dr. Harper, it goes into more detail in your report, which I supplied to the court, which is a total of 11 pages, and I believe that's confidential document.
That's what's been marked. I don't believe it's been filed in the court file.
Okay.
If it has, that's something if it needs to be, it's something we can address. I have reviewed it. It does reflect confidential privilege information on the first page. I don't believe it's been filed in the court file unless you did it. Okay. It already has been? All right, appreciate it. Okay, excellent. Thank you, sir.
And Dr. Harper, you're aware that the defense has filed a defendant's motion for downward departure.
Yes.
And we've listed several factors under paragraph 3, the capacity of the defendant to appreciate the criminal nature of her actions and conform with the requirements of law or substantially impaired, that she requires specialized treatment for a mental disorder that is not related to substance use or addiction, although you agree that she does suffer from alcohol use disorder.
So she has an underlying mental health disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, and I additionally diagnosed her with alcohol use disorder, which is separate.
But you agree she does require specialized treatment for a mental disorder that's not related to the substance use or addiction?
That's correct.
And you agree she's amenable for treatment?
Yes.
And you would agree that she acted under extreme duress in this unique homicide case?
Yes.
And you would agree that the uniqueness of the circumstances, the facts and circumstances surrounding the case, that the offense was committed in an unsophisticated manner?
Yes.
And it was isolated?
That's my understanding as well.
Other than she had the charge where both of them were charged at one time, and I think she had the strangulation allegation, the felony case that was ultimately dismissed when both of them were arrested.
She had a prior felony case. The facts are different, of course, than this particular case we're here today.
Dr. Harper, I believe that's all the questions I've got, unless you would like to say if I've missed anything, of course.
No, I think.
Okay, and if not, it's in the report.
Yes.
Any questions?
Yes, may she take the stand so I can take the podium?
Yes, that's fine. You may inquire, sir.
In pages 1 and 2 of your report, you go through the sources of your information, correct?
Yes.
And that would include 8 interviews that you had with her from the course of August of 2020 through September of 2024, correct?
There were 9 interviews, but 8 dates of service are listed.
You did the Miller Forensic Assessment of Symptoms Test, or MFAST.
That's right.
Inventory of Legal Knowledge, ILK.
That's right.
Clinician-administered PTSD Scale 5 examination.
Yes.
You consulted with her attorney.
Yes.
Videotaped interviews from this court case number of Sarah Boone, interview part 1 and 2, Abraham Moreno interview, Brandon Motes interview, Brian Boone interview, Juan Torres interview, and Melissa Sexton interview, correct?
Yes.
You reviewed the autopsy photos?
Yes.
You reviewed some of the digital forensic exhibits, including the Apple iPhone XS and a Samsung SMJ 327 T1 photographs from those 2 devices?
Yes.
You reviewed Bates stamped discovery pages 1 through 413.
That's correct.
The crime scene photos are photos of a scene taken on June 19th of 2020.
Yes.
Aspire Health records.
Yes.
And who do those pertain to?
Aspire Health records are for Sarah Boone.
Florida Hospital Medical Group records.
Yes.
And who do those records pertain to?
That is also for Sarah Boone.
And Aspire, is that a mental health treatment facility?
It has an emergency department record, but that would be the place where she was detained under the Baker Act.
And it is routine and common in the practice of forensic psychology or psychiatry to rely on the records of other such practitioners.
As a source of information, sure.
You reviewed the deposition of Dr. Tanya Warner.
I did.
You reviewed the trial testimony of Sarah Boone, Brian Boone, Dr. Michael Brannon, Dr. Tanya Werner, correct?
Yes.
The jury verdict form dated 10/25/24.
Yes.
Witness list notice of filing amended.
Yes.
On this case. Records of Jorge Torres or George Torres involving case numbers 2019 MM 5114, a 911 call and PDF, case 2019 MM 7193, case 2019 MM 7193, Torres Public Records, case 2019 MM 7193, Torres Photos, Central Florida Primary Care Records, Advent Health Orlando Medical Records, correct?
Yes.
And those latter records that I just mentioned, those for Mr. Torres and not Ms. Boone, correct?
That's right.
Then you reviewed Sarah Boone written correspondence, Sarah's listing of domestic violence incidents, Sarah's writings regarding missing days of work and Baker Act, and a 74-page life story.
That's right.
And then case 2018 CF 10573, public records and photos.
Yes.
And a telephone interview with Melissa Sexton, the property manager, which you conducted on October 1st, 2024.
Yes.
And a telephonic interview with Philip Paulson, the defendant's brother, on November 26, 2024.
Yes.
Where has Ms. Boone been housed and living since February of 2020?
At the Orange County Jail.
And does the Orange County Jail provide mental health services to inmates?
It does.
And you already testified you would routinely, as a forensic psychologist, review records kept of psychological or psychiatric treatment of a patient or a client, correct?
Yes.
In this particular case, have you reviewed any mental health records generated by the Orange County Jail for Ms. Boone?
No, I have not had the opportunity to do that.
So, for the last 58 months or so, if she was being seen by the mental health treatment staff at the jail, you have not reviewed those records?
That's correct.
And they are overseen at the jail, in the Orange County Jail, by a psychiatrist. Are you aware or not?
If the person's level of mental health intervention deems them eligible for psychiatry, then they will.
And any diagnosis or lack of diagnosis that they have had during the course of the last 58 months, you are unaware of because you did not review the records.
That's right.
I don't have any other questions.
Any redirect examination?
No, Judge.
All right, thank you.
One question. Dr. Harper, I didn't ask you to review those records, did I?
No.
Thank you.
Judge, I believe you said it at the very beginning that I had submitted several letters on behalf of Ms. Boone, and she didn't hear that, but I wanted her to be made aware.
Yes, ma'am.
And you don't actually read those letters into the record, but you did read them.
I have reviewed them. They're in my binder here. How many do I have? Yes. Give me a second, I can tell you. I have 6 handwritten letters. First one is 1 page. Second one is 2 pages. Third one is 1 page. Fourth one is 2 pages. Fifth one is 2 pages. Sixth one is 2 pages. I have a typed letter from Diane Smith, the assistant chaplain. Thank you. Ms. Boone, you can be seated. You've been previously sworn. You may inquire, sir.
For the record, just state your name again.
Sarah Boone.
All right. Now, this is unlike a trial, so you're allowed to speak in a narrative form, as well as I understand you have taken some notes or written a letter that you want to read from, and then you want to speak to the court after that.
Yes.
All right. Why don't you go ahead and get started?
This is actually an edited version of.
Hold on a second.
I had a lot to say. I've had a lot of time to think about things, and I didn't really know how to put it on paper, and I didn't know how much I could say or how little I should say. So what I have here is, like I said, an edited version. But I would like to read the more important parts that I feel that everyone should know that wasn't said in my actual trial. And on top of what I have on paper, I have, this is just the tip of the tip of the tip of the iceberg. So I wanted to read this, and then, if I may, I would like to address everyone in my apology on top of my statement.
You may proceed, ma'am.
Kintu Sukuroi is a kind of Japanese ceramic style which means to repair with gold. In this tradition, when a ceramic piece breaks, an artisan will fuse the pieces back together again using liquid gold or gold dust lacquer. So rather than being covered up, the breaks become more obvious and a brilliant new piece of art emerges from the brokenness. It embraces flaws, weakness, and imperfections, and also teaches the essence of resilience. Every crack in a ceramic piece is a part of its history, and each piece becomes more beautiful because it has been broken. This is the wisdom of Kintu Sukuroi. In my wisdom and with all of my repairs, then, now, and ongoing, God is, has been, and will always be my artisan. All of my gold is forgiveness. This has held me together, made me shine brighter, and overcome the damage caused by Jorge Torres, the Torres family, the justice system, Orange County Corrections Department, social media, scoundrel detectives, infamy, defamation, ongoing constitutional rights violations, second-degree murder, forced into being pro se. Just as gold is very precious, forgiveness is invaluable. Forgiveness is not an attempt to change or forget who, what, or how you've lived through to be so gold, but an act of grace, humility, and considerable self-compassion to be set free from sorrow. Withholding forgiveness denies your brilliance and adds even greater grief and deeper heartache, irreparable cracks on top of the already that no one deserves, no matter the pain or disappointment, untruths or injustice. It doesn't matter. As the more broken you are, even though now different than before, you've become more outstanding and more extraordinary. Above all, when you let go of blame, misunderstandings, excuses, give up your anger and cease from resentment, this is forgiven. And when you forgive, you have
And when you forgive, you heal. And when you heal, you move forward. My goal begins with Jorge Torres, and every time he slapped me, kicked, punched, spit on, raped, stabbed, choked, laughed at, pushed, pulled, dragged, whipped, tripped, stole from, lied, terrorized, threatened, humiliated, forced, degraded, made me cry. Every time he tried to end me, defeat, or destroy. I forgive George for beating me senseless, for trying to sleep because I had to go to work or my son's field trip the next day, for ruining my deceased family's heirlooms, traditions, and keepsakes, my son's furniture, destroying the television we watched together, for wrecking our townhome by breaking windows, punching holes in the walls and doors, ramming his entire body into glass doors, kicking in my front and back door over and over and over, for breaking or removing the locks from all of the doors and sometimes the knobs altogether, so I had nowhere to feel safe, including the sacred space of my son's room where he beat me bloody on his bed. For terrorizing and threatening my blind and deaf dogs by leaving the gate open I built to keep them safe, telling me he hoped I'd find their bloated dead body in the pond or scrape their remains off of the pavement, for kicking them off of the bed and throwing across the room because they were trying to protect me, for threatening to make me unrecognizable to my son by breaking all of the bones in my face, like his brother Moses did to him after he kept seeing all of the bruises from George beating me, like all of the times their father beat their mother, for all of the drunken rages and fist fights with so many neighbors when wandering into their apartments during hunting expeditions after I had escaped, for drowning me in liquor and wine because I didn't want to drink, causing me to urinate on myself, then butting the end of the bottle in my face, giving me 2 black eyes and a bloody nose, for making me experience what it is to be sodomized, threatening to kill my friends and the neighbors when they checked on me to make sure I was alive and in one piece, for threatening to burn down our townhome and set my car on fire because I got a job, for holding me hostage on weekends my son was supposed to come over by keeping my keys around his neck, my phone in his crotch, and a butcher knife stuck in the middle of the table as a warning not to ask anything or try to leave, for stabbing me in the leg and not letting me call 911 for an ambulance or seek help, where I nearly bled to death until I concocted a lie to save him from being arrested, for destroying my phone with a hammer because my son called, for me experiencing ever being arrested and after today, prison, for beating me almost blind, crushing my occipital lobe, for having me experience what it means to see stars like in the cartoons where a character has a tall lump on their head. I had that too, and many times, for dragging me downstairs by my hair in the middle of the night just to sit next to him, for taking my car driving drunk with my debit card to buy more alcohol while I slept, even after I kindly explained the importance of my car to take my son to school foremost, me to work, and he to his batterers intervention classes and probation officer meetings, where I would be forced to sit for hours in the parking lot waiting for him, for causing me so much trauma and pain mentally, physically, emotionally, I had to be hospitalized more than once, for destroying my reputation and integrity, for my M for murderer scarlet letter, not letting me feel safe to live, talk to other people, spend time with my son, have a job, friendships, simply go to the bathroom with the door closed, or go to sleep soundly or comfortably. I forgive George for lying, for him trying in so many ways, so many times, to end me with his terrifying love. I also forgive the Torres family, his mother and father foremost, also his 2 ex-wives and daughters, all for knowing who George was, capable of, and has done in the past, his history of violence and where he learned it, then to keep turning a blind eye when I would ask for help. All of his siblings, including Farrell Torres, who is now on his way to prison for stabbing the mother of their baby in the side of her head. For everyone who knew what George was doing to me, sometimes how and when, but allowed and enabled. I forgive them for caring too late. I hope they all ask themselves while quiet and comfortable in bed at night the uneasy question, what could I have done to stop this from happening to both of them? And after all the times Sarah tried to, by asking for help from all of us and so many times. Another great contributor of my gold is social media, with its greed, insensitivity, deception, obvious exploitation, and advantageous gain from my criminal case as a whole, and for sentencing me by anticipation as a result of ignorance and hate, conjured and fabricated by the organized crime that is social media, which condemned me in the court of global public opinion since the beginning. My family law case is the new prey waiting to be picked apart and pillaged from me being made infamous by social media in my criminal case. It simply seems I cannot forgive and be forgiven and move forward. Social media has made me a pariah. It has caused great oppression and undeniable disadvantages, especially by broadcasting and manipulating my cases online. In my criminal case, as a result, my opportunities to be given a fair, proper, and uninfluenced successful conclusion was heavily depleted and poisoned. I forgive them. Also, all of the media tycoons for not having a life of their own, trying so desperately to make themselves seem so right by making me appear so wrong. Forgiveness for prejudgment, ridiculous theatrics, lies, making and taking blood money from my and others' misfortunes, accidents, and catastrophes. It's all over their hands and their keyboards. And even after all that's been said and done, theorized, hypothesized, scrutinized, and blasphemed, in my case, still no one knows me. In the end, I forgive myself for not choosing my life sooner, for not being more brave, vigilant, bolder, and outspoken, stronger, mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, for being hopeless, desperate, simple-minded, weak, and inexperienced. I forgive myself for not realizing I was enduring a life of domestic violence and that the vicious cycle of never ends. I had nothing to compare to. I've never been hit by a man ever before in my life. I was raised hitting a woman was wrong and should never happen. No excuse. I forgive myself for not escaping permanently, for not fighting back sooner to save myself, my son, my dogs, home, and car. Having 20/20 hindsight thinking of everything I could have done differently or better to avoid the outcome. I think about this every day since. Also, of all the good days we had together, for him at least, while I was constantly in hyperdrive, high alert, and paranoid, making sure I did everything right all the time. If not, the great possibility I would be ended as George threatened me with so many times before. I forgive myself for falling in love with a monster, and no matter how grotesque he may become, I still loved him, hoped, and forgave. I tried breaking the spell so he wouldn't be a monster anymore. I saw who he was inside. George made me then, now, and always love him for all of his cracks also. We made each other our own brilliant pieces of art from the cracks and repairs. Unfortunately, not all cracks can be. In all of my forgiveness, George is my greatest lesson and will forever be a part of me. I think of him every day and still speak to him when alone on the rec yard. I ask his forgiveness and that he looks for me at the gates of heaven so I can tell him how sorry I am, endlessly, and that I never stopped loving him. In all of it and still. When I first came to jail, I put my mat under my bed and cried all day and all night for months, only falling asleep from being so exhausted with grief. I wrote him letters. I wrote his family and his daughters, apologizing for asking for their forgiveness. But due to fear that my life or sons would be jeopardized, I did not send. I am sorry. I cannot begin to fathom any of their grief and sadness. Please forgive me. Almost everything reminds me of him, seeing my stab wound especially every day especially. It truly reminds me that all I really did live through. George haunts me. He is everywhere. I believe because I do still love him, think of him, and miss his laugh the most. In my heart, I know he is with me and understands that this tragedy was not intentional. I hope everyone can, his family foremost. I didn't mean for this to happen. Please wholeheartedly know that, and always, I would never. Forgive me, George. Forgive me, Torres family. Forgive me, Judge Cranick. To the entire planet, please forgive me. I graciously and humbly ask for consideration, for forgiveness to be extended instead of judgment, for reconciliation and restoration for all of us to move forward. My apology is profuse and ceaseless. Allow me, please, to brush off the muck, wipe the blood off of my face, and fix the cuts in my skin. I ask for understanding in what really happened and for how long, for second chances, repentance, and redemption to advocate for all domestic violence survivors, to help them overcome, heal, and still hope, always, to make their voices heard, to confidently walk with all of their scars on the outside and the inside, to help them not ever become a casualty of domestic violence as so many others, to stop the abuse and maltreatment before it's too late. There is always hope, and you can survive. In my soft-spoken conclusion, I ask this: would I be the darling mother, celebrated woman of the year, if it were I who died? How many daughters, mothers, sisters, aunts, grandmothers, nieces, and friends have been because they did? I am a survivor. Learn to do good, seek justice, rebuke oppressors, defend the fatherless, plead for the widow. Isaiah 1:17, all-encompassing, protect the abused.
Ms. Boone, is that the end of your written statement?
Yes.
Now, gathering your thoughts, did you want to make an oral statement?
I do.
All right, would you do that now?
Yes, please. My statement, my verbal statement, is primarily to the Torres family, to the judge, to his daughters. I know you all know who I really am, and that I did care for George, and that I do still love George. I know you know that we had very many good days, and I take offense to the statement of being said that this is just for a moment. Right now with me here in the courtroom in front of you all, this is just for a moment. But the moments before that, in order for me to be here, is endless. It's everlasting. The scars that I have on the inside, my outside scars have healed, except for my stab wound. But this has changed me as a person to see things differently and to understand things differently and to not be weak and just try to protect yourself, and forever, regardless of the time that I may receive from today, I forever will have this experience. I forever will have Jorge Torres with me in my heart, in my mind, my body, and my soul. As he and I used to say that we were one soul split into two bodies. This is not just for a moment. It may be for everyone in this courtroom, but when I leave, this is forever. When you all leave, that this is forever. This is forever for everyone here and those who it matters to most. I am one of those who will experience this forever. I'm sorry. Words do not define my shame, and I don't know what else it is that I can say and convey to the Torres family how this happened. The ifs and whys and how really don't matter. It happened, and I'm sorry. Words cannot describe. And I hope that everyone can forgive me, the Torres family most of all, and his daughters, because I know what he meant to them. And I don't think that anybody ever understood what he meant to me and I to him. And I ask for forgiveness.
Ms. Boone, I have just one or two questions, if you don't mind. And you can speak on it if you want or not. But this is a unique case, and one of the reasons it's so unique is that you were in jail for 4.5 years prior to your trial. And I understand that when you were brought up as a child that you did have some spirituality in your family, some church, some religion.
Always.
But I understand that you got away from that. Did you have a chance during the 4.5 years to look back at your spirituality?
Absolutely. You know, Everyone supposes that this is one of the worst experiences of my life, and it's actually been one of my greatest. If I were not beaten to death, I was going to work myself to death on the outside, and I never had time to get back into my Bible and to pray and to be with the Lord. And I, being here incarcerated, have had time, of course, to get closer to God, to reacquaint myself to Him, and realize what it's all about. This is all temporary. And when I say temporary, I don't mean by being set free in jail or from prison or wherever else. It means being set free and temporary, meaning that you work for something higher. You work for God, that you strive for your crown to be placed upon your head by Jesus Christ by being said, "You have done well, my good and faithful servant." I've always tried to be a good and faithful servant. I was just a servant as opposed to doing all that I can when my family were alive and I was going through everything up to this point. I've become so much more closer to the Lord, and it's made me such a better person, and I hope that I am an example going forward of the Lord's light and can draw many people to me because of it.
Any follow-up, State?
No, I assumed that was the final word.
Thank you. She can return back to council's table. Anything else from your side of the ledger, Mr. Owens?
No more witnesses, Judge, just arguments.
Okay. Anything else in rebuttal, or just proceed to argument, State?
Just proceed to argument.
Okay. All right. Once Ms. Booth's seated, you can proceed with your argument, either Mr. J or Mr. Cacciatore.